given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they want to do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shit.
How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tear Talk. Guys, great tips coming your way. We're going to be talking about some tips that you need to know when you're interacting with the inmate population. And guys, by the way, we interact with the inmate population a lot more than we've ever did in the past. So these tips are essential into surviving in this profession. Now, I've done videos on this in the past. One good video I've done on this was controlling the dialogue. So if you guys get a chance, it's controlling the dialogue Tear Talk. I think if you put that right through the YouTube query, you'll be able to find that video. It's a great video that kind of gives what I feel is good advice when dealing with the inmates during those routine interactions. But today, I'm going to forward the video over to 5 professionals. And our 5 professionals are each going to give you a tip from their own perspective, which is based on experience. Also, guys, don't forget, today's video is brought to you by Guardian RFID. So from inmate tracking and cell checks to cloud-based businesses and artificial intelligence, Guardian RFID digitally transforms jails, prisons, and juvenile detention facilities of every size. Visit guardianrfid.com for more information. Now, guys, if you haven't, the show Tear Talks for your brave men and women that work in corrections, so please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post up a video. We're going to go to my other sponsor, the American Military University, and when we come back, we're going to go to Russ Hamilton with the first of 5 tips coming your way. Stand by.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Hi, everyone. I'm Russ Hamilton, founder of Keepers of Chaos on Facebook, and this is the very first tip. This particular tip is about controlling the dialogue when you're having some kind of interaction with an inmate. It's real easy for these guys to try and manipulate you into the conversation that you want. And whether you approach them or they approach you with regards to some particular issue, they are going to try and draw you off topic. One classic thing is often, I'll see an inmate and maybe I'm trying to clear the yard or clear a lane or something. And so I'll ask them right off the bat, hey, where do you live? And the first thing that they're going to tell you is not where they live. They're going to draw you into this thing about, well, I'm trying to get to medical, or I have to report to my job, or this or that. And they simply won't answer the question that you've asked them. And, for the new officer, that's problematic because you're not used to people circle talking you that way, not going around the issue. So what you need to do is you need to control the dialogue. You need to put yourself in the driver's seat and get right back to it immediately. Where is it that you live? Or where is it that you're going to? Or why are you in my area? Because they want to make sure that they give you the least amount of information as possible. And information is critical in corrections because if you don't know what's going on with a particular inmate, you can place your entire unit in jeopardy because you have to know how to control the movement. That's one reason why we rely on a lot of things, like master movement sheets and counting inmates out of areas and into areas. And that's why it's so critical that we establish the dialogue and that we control it and that we make sure that we get the proper answers. One of the first things I always like to do in order to help control this is I'll ask immediately every time for the inmate's ID. That way I can look at him, I can identify him, I know what his name is, I know what his number is. And they're a lot less likely at that point to try and that circle talking. As long as they think that they're anonymous, And it's easy for them to remain anonymous, especially if you're in a big institution, you know, with thousands and thousands of inmates. You'll be able at that point to get a better idea of what this inmate is about, because it'll list where he's housed at. It might even tell you where he's assigned to. And these things are all critical. So don't let them buffalo you. Don't let them get you sidetracked, and make sure that you demand and that you get direct answers to direct questions. You know, it seems like a really simple thing, but it's not. And you're going to see when you get into it with these guys, just how manipulative they can be with regards to them trying to steer you into the conversation that they want to have, so that they can end up maybe not having to lock up. Maybe it's so that they can try and sneak a quick trip to medical to do something. Maybe they're trying to move some contraband on their yard. The truth about the matter is you don't know. This is a good time to get to know the inmate, maybe even to do a pat search and control more than just the dialogue in a manner like that. This is Russ Hamilton, founder of Keepers of Chaos on Facebook. Talk to you later.
Perfect. All right, Russ, thanks, man. I'll wrap it up and I'll have it posted up shortly.
Did you think that was good?
That was beyond perfect.
Okay, good.
All right, Russ,
I had to pull that one out of my ass, Anthony.
yeah, but can I tell you something? I didn't smell the shit on it.
There you go.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lieutenant Gary F. Cornelius, retired Deputy Sheriff, Fairfax County, Virginia, Office of the Sheriff. I worked for 27 years in the Fairfax County Adult Detention Center, retiring in 2005. I'm a corrections author, trainer, and consultant. I've authored several books, most notably The Art of the Con, Avoiding Offender Manipulation, and The Correctional Officer, Practical Guide. And I'm here to talk about tip number 2. And I want to talk about respect, power, and knowing the inmate's rights and your responsibilities in that area. The first thing is power. As a correctional officer, either in a jail or a prison or in any kind of facility, you have power over just about every aspect of the inmate's life, what units they live in, where they can go, custody level, and so forth. I think a key thing to remember is that you use that power wisely and you don't let it go to your head. You don't go on a power trip where it's all about authority. And I think that if you use that power wisely, judiciously, and maturely, it leads to a respect aspect, and you want two-way respect with the inmates. There are some inmates that are hard to deal with, and there are many that you can talk to. They will talk to you. You can talk to them without surrendering any kind of your authority. Many incidents in life, as we know, go well if there's mutual respect and the other person listens. Most of the time, you can do that with inmates. If they're calm, you can talk to them calmly. But you have to keep calm as well, and that takes effort. It's a stressful job. You're juggling many balls in the air. And when I'm doing a class on inmate management, I talk about all the things that a correctional officer has to do on his or her post, and it's not an easy job. So you have to keep cool and calm, and it takes effort and self-restraint. The other thing I'd like to say, if with this thing about respect, is there's going to be days where you're stressed out. There's going to be days when you're walking out of the jail and you're tired. And I just advise my classes when I do trainings is turn around and look at the jail. They're still there, and you're going home. So in a way, you've won, you've survived, but you've kept your cool. You've not let most situations you're not going to let escalate into something worse. Now, I'm to be honest, there are some inmates that are very difficult to deal with. I'm not going to sit here and do a pie in the sky thing. Some inmates, it's hard to deal with, but just use the power wisely, respect the inmates, and most of the time you respect them, you listen to them and what their concerns are, and it'll go a lot better. Now, manipulation is a factor. So keep that, you have to keep in mind that inmates will manipulate you. They will tell stories, lies, embellish, try to get you to see their side and so forth. But you have a responsibility. First, you have a responsibility to the agency and yourself, and you have to follow policies and procedures. That keeps you safe. That keeps you safe. Also, you have a responsibility. The inmates have rights. And no matter what you think of that inmate, no matter if they could be the worst acting inmate in the jail, they still have rights, and you have a responsibility to that. Finally, following policies and procedures, that keeps you safe. So if you're dealing with these inmates and you're not letting the power go to your head, you're not acting inappropriately, you're respecting the inmates, you're guarding against manipulation, and you're following the policies and procedures, that keeps you safe, keeps you on firm ground, and that keeps everyone safe.
Hi, everybody. My name is Connie Alleyne. I am the founder and president of the Civilian Corrections Academy. I am also the author of The Cage Was Her Cocoon. My tip for today, I am tip number 3. My tip is to just be mindful of the secondary gains that the inmates are looking for. Just about every request that they make usually comes with something else that they're really angling for. So I've had, particularly a medical inmate comes downstairs, oh, I have a headache, but they want to tell us what meds they want for their headache, right? So can I get a Tylenol with codeine, right? We don't just give you Tylenol with codeine. And I've seen it time and time again. Inmate comes down, they ask you for something, they're always angling to get something else. We talk about that checkers versus chess. They're always a couple of steps down the way. And if they can get success or victory with that first request, just know that there's going to be other requests coming along the way.
Good evening, guys. I'm retired Major Louis Soto, currently a Rutgers professor in the Criminal Justice Department. And I have tip number 4 for you today. And tip number 4 talks about divulging personal information. So you have to understand, just like tip number 3, where Connie was talking about, there's always an alternative motive. Inmates will always try to engage with you in a personal way in order to gain some information from you. So we're talking about routine interactions with them where they may come up to you and request something simple as, an item they need, toilet paper, or just to talk to you about, hey, did you see the game last night? Whether it be football, baseball, basketball, whatever they believe you're into. And it's all that alternative motive that they want. They want something from you, some information, because as everything else, information is power. So any little information or tidbit they can get or gain from you will be later on used to get their way, something that they like to call inmate manipulation, right? Any information that they gather can always be used for their motives, right? And you have to be cognizant that because it's not an emergent situation and we're not on that high alert, that it's just something that's routine, something that's an interaction that happens day to day. Something as simple as, hey, can I clean up the tier today? I know you're busy. Maybe the other inmate just got released. I can help out. It's all sometimes a ploy to get and gather information on you. So just be mindful, be cognizant. Don't give up any information from yourself, inadvertently talking about your family, your address, and that's how they start off, with something simple, some similar likes that you have that they can, obviously ascertain or hear through just listening to you. Remember that they're observing you at all times. So do not, I repeat, give up all that personal information just because you forget where you're at. You forget that you're in a prison setting. So again, be safe.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Jay Lawrie, and I am the chair of the Criminal Justice Department at Albertus Magnus College in New Haven, Connecticut. Prior to that, I spent 20 years working in the Connecticut DOC and retired in 2013 as a unit manager. I am here to talk to you tonight about tip number 5, which involves situational awareness during the routine interactions with an inmate. Now, correctional staff verbally engage with inmates throughout their shift, and the majority of the conversations are routine. However, staff must always be alert when participating in these dialogues. Few things you want to do. You always want to maintain situational awareness and be cognizant of your physical surroundings while speaking with an inmate, whether you're on a tier, in a chow hall, in a day room, on the yard, whatever the specific case may be. Again, always be alert to your surroundings. If you happen to be at a post with logbooks and or monitors, be sure that the inmate cannot view them. So you may physically close the logbook or reposition yourself so they can't access the information you have. If you have tools, equipments, and or possibly a landline, make sure they're secured and not easily accessible. Sometimes inmates will approach you with a question, and the point has nothing to do with the actual question, to see what you might be doing, what information they can access. You also want to be fully aware of the inmate's body language. One of the things that I was big on was I would never talk to an inmate when they had their hands in their pockets. I always wanted their hands out of their pockets. I wanted to be able to see what's going on. You want to watch their eye movements to ensure they're focusing on you and not someone or something else around you. And you also want to assess their demeanor to see if they appear nervous or uneasy if it doesn't seem appropriate. Is it a relatively innocuous topic? Is it an inmate you may speak with on a frequent basis, but they somehow seem off that day? Just something that may indicate to you whether or not they may be more to the situation. Also, you want to physically position yourself so that you can maintain a visual of your area while you're speaking with the individual. You still want to engage with your active listening skills with that inmate, but you want to be aware of everything else that's going on around you as well. Make mental notes also of how other inmates may be observing your conversation and address as needed. If you notice that other inmates are watching you and they may be talking to each other about the way this inmate's communicating with you, there may be some things you may want to look into after. Lastly, and this is just something I always did, I always like to keep my hands up and kind of in a non-defensive way, sort of active. I talk a lot with my hands. I still do it. It's not nothing threatening, but also you're always in a position to be able to protect yourself and make space if you have to. So that's just something I've always done. You never want to let the inmate lead you away from the area without you controlling it. If the discussion possibly had to be held in private and it was appropriate, you're going to want to let other officers or staff in the area know that you're moving away. If you're not able to leave the area with the inmate at that time and the inmate still wants to speak to you in private, you may want to try and set something up a little bit later when it's more convenient. And again, just be aware of your surroundings. And then lastly, don't let other inmates get involved in discussion when it's not appropriate. Other inmates should not be advocating for each other, and they will sometimes use that as a way to manipulate the situation if they believe a staff member may be more susceptible to that sort of thing. So if you notice this happening, stop the conversation, maintain control of the area, and if the conversation needs to continue and it can't be done then, find a way to get back in touch with the inmate after.
All right, guys, and that's it. Thank you guys for giving us those tips. Those are 5 great tips. And we have, again, controlling the dialogue. Keep the inmates to the point. Don't let them give you the runaround. You ask them a question, make sure they answered it. Again, like Russ said, direct question. I want a direct answer, especially if it's a yes or no. Did you get the yes or the no? Did you get what it is that you were looking for? Thank you, Russ, for that. Also, great tip from Gary Cornelius. You want respect, you got to give respect. And guys, having that position of power over somebody comes with a lot of responsibility. And part of that responsibility is knowing and understanding the inmate's rights. So, Gary, thank you for touching on that topic. And Connie, you're right. There's always a secondary gain from any request. So it's always great to get an understanding what's the motivation behind that request. And also, why are they coming to you? You can come to anybody. Why are you coming to me? So again, what are the motivations behind the inmate making that request? I thought that was great. And Soto hit it right on the spot. Never give up your personal information. I got a book out there on the market, Inmate Manipulation Decoded. And that's one of the things that open that door to manipulation, even the smallest of things. What's your favorite sports team? It's that personal information that's meant to pull you out of your prescribed role. So do what you can and protect that personal information with everything you got. Because once they get an understanding of anything personal about you, they can use it against you. It becomes power. It becomes leverage. And Dr. J, situational awareness. Don't get complacent. Remember who you are talking to. Trust me, I've seen staff talk to inmates and staff's got their hands right in their pockets. Guys, every time you're dealing with an inmate, look at everything around you, including that inmate, because sometimes that interaction you're having with that inmate could be just a distraction. So I thought that was great advice by Dr. J. As always, guys, the show is Tear Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay safe.